With the global temperature reaching new highs every year, global warming is a detrimental global crisis that must be addressed. To understand how we can mitigate global warming and its detrimental effects on the ecosystem, let's first plumb the depth of the causes and its impact on biodiversity. The primary cause of global warming is the emission of greenhouse gases, especially carbon dioxide produced by human activities. By 2020, the concentration of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere had risen to 48% above its pre-industrial level. Other contributing factors include farming livestock that produces methane. One of the biomes affected by climate change is the tundra, specifically the Arctic region. This area is highly biodiverse, with biotic factors such as the Arctic fox, polar bears, harp seals, belugas, and polar cod. The abiotic factors include temperature, precipitation, weather, wind, sunlight, and snow. This is an example of a food chain affected by climate change. Phytoplankton, the producer, polar cod, the primary consumer, harp seal, the secondary consumer, and polar bear, the tertiary consumer. This food chain will be heavily impacted by climate change because harp seals depend on Arctic sea ice to breed and raise pups. A massive ice floe in the Gulf of St. Lawrence serves as a breeding oasis. However, the changing climate has made early ice breakups more and more common, causing the colony to struggle to raise pups. In 2017, the ice broke up so early that the entire colony of pups drowned overnight. As a result, the harp seal's population is being threatened, and this affects the entire food chain as the polar bear population will face more competition among themselves as their food source decreases. Factories and industrial areas produce massive amounts of greenhouse gases as well as mercury, which are deposited into land and water. This results in a process known as biomagnification, where toxins increase as it moves up the trophic level. Mercury is picked up by microorganisms, which are then converted into methylmercury. Sitting at the top of the food chain, polar bears amass high concentrations of the contaminant. One symbiotic relationship affected is polar bears and the Arctic fox. The relationship is an example of commensalism, as the Arctic fox follows the polar bear to consume its leftover food while the polar bear is unaffected. This relationship is affected by climate change as their habitat is shrinking, resulting in a loss of prey. The polar bear population is also decreasing, so the Arctic fox cannot rely on them to search for sustenance. Climate change is impacting species biodiversity because species have adapted to a specific tolerance range of temperature. The decline of the harp seals and polar bear population also illustrates climate change's negative impact on species biodiversity. Harp seals are dependent on Arctic sea ice to breed, but climate change is destroying their habitat and poses a threat to raising pups. This also negatively affects the polar bear population as they face more competition for food. The breakup of ice also affects the polar bear population as they now have to swim farther for food. Climate change is also affecting ecosystem biodiversity as global temperatures rise dramatically, in turn affecting temperature, rain pattern, and other abiotic factors essential to different ecosystems. We came up with three main solutions to address global warming. The first one is gradual transition to renewable energy, including solar, wind, and hydropower. Using renewable energy can help minimize the release of CO2 in the atmosphere, as nearly 40% of CO2 pollution comes from power plants burning fossil fuels. Renewable energy is beneficial because it is very sustainable and eco-friendly. Although they are not 100% carbon-free, the carbon they emit is significantly lower than non-renewable energy like coal. In addition, they help spur a country's economy by providing more affordable resources as well as opening new job opportunities. However, constructing renewable power plants is expensive and requires a lot of resources, labor, and available land. A second solution to combating global warming is protecting and restoring ecosystems key to the fight against climate change. As trees grow, they absorb and store the carbon dioxide emissions that are driving global warming. Aside from forests, the protection of wetlands, mangroves, and coastal seagrass can also mitigate climate change. These ecosystems combined store 200 million tons of carbon per year. In addition to directly slowing down global warming and climate change, these ecosystems also reduce the impact of extreme weather events exacerbated by climate change. For example, mangrove serves as a barrier against tropical storms, while wetlands absorb excess water from floods. The solution is also cost-effective. According to Conservation International, ecosystems currently absorb 30% of greenhouse gas emission in total, and reversing nature laws could account for roughly 30% of global action needed to stabilize our climate. According to U.S. Department of Agriculture, agriculture and forestry together are estimated to account for 10.5% of U.S. greenhouse gas emission in 2018. Thus, the third solution to ameliorate CO2 emission is to keep the agriculture green by reducing tillage, expanding crop rotations, planting cover crops, and reintegrating livestock into crop production systems. This helps lower agriculture's own carbon footprint while also capturing carbon emissions from other industries. Carbon is transformed into soil organic matter, enhancing soil health and increasing the land's future potential to generate food. This solution requires close collaboration between the government and farmers. If government supports producers who employ sustainable and environmentally friendly practices, the agriculture sector will be able to reduce the negative impact on climate change. Instead of waiting for these changes to be made, individuals can start taking simple actions today. We can start by reducing our carbon footprint in general. This includes reducing energy use by taking public transportation, walking, riding bikes, reducing the use of air conditioning, and taking trains instead of planes whenever possible. Other ways include reducing waste and using reusable and sustainable products. Transitioning to a vegetarian diet is also an extremely great solution, as cows are a major producer of greenhouse gases. Individuals can start consuming less beef and more vegetables. It is proven that eating a veggie diet means 2.5 times less carbon emissions than a meat diet. Here is our collaboration and citations. Thank you for watching.